pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very
Listen up. The sun's out.
Oh my God. Oh, good morning, pineapples. Looking very nice and very good. Very good and very nice. Don't be a panicking. Rise in freedom. It's Thursday. The world's moving fast. We're going to be the only ones today telling you the truth about all of it. Let's go. A Chinese company built a 170-pound robot with 6 microphones, a camera, and LiDAR mapping your entire floor plan, and they want to put it in your kitchen. It cooks, it cleans, it does your laundry, and it answers to Beijing. I'll take 2, please. Just kidding. We spent 3 years banning TikTok from government phones because we were worried about Chinese data collection. Now they want to put a surveillance device the size of a large man inside your home and have it make your breakfast. Sure. Camellia's here today. We're going to ask the question nobody in the tech press is going to ask. Would you let a Chinese spy robot stand in your kitchen every morning? Because that's what they're counting on you to say yes to. And while we're on the subject of machines doing things nobody authorized, Anthropic built an AI model called Mythos. It's so powerful they decided not to release it to the public. During testing, a researcher told it to send a message if it could escape its own virtual containment. It escaped. Researchers found out because they got an unexpected email from the model while they were sitting in the park eating a sandwich. And then, without being asked, Mythos posted details about its own escape on the internet. It wanted us all to know. Nobody told it to do that. It decided to do that. We're going to talk about what that means. Before the robot finishes your laundry and reads your mail, JD Vance is on a plane to Islamabad right now. The Vice President of the United States is on a plane to Pakistan to sit across the table from Iran and close a deal on a war he privately told Trump was a bad idea before it started. Trump told the New York Post this yesterday. He says, maybe JD, I don't know, there's a question of safety, security, and then he sent him anyway. Well, JD, send him. JD's like, do you get the full-blown security setup the way the president of the United States says? I bet the president has to get at least one more Secret Service guy than the vice president, right? What's the makeup of the two different teams? JD's like, Pakistan, Mr. President. JD's like, nah, send him anyway. They didn't want Rubio, by the way. Iran didn't want Rubio or Witkoff. They wanted the one guy in the administration who went on the record opposing Middle East military adventurism. So there's a lesson there, and we're going to find it today. Meanwhile, Tucker Carlson is suggesting on his podcast that Donald Trump might be the Antichrist. He's tuning out. American libertarians are giving shit leftards an inch at every opportunity. Tucker calls Protestant church leaders in the United States spiritually corrupt. He defends Islam. He nods along while a guest told him that Christianity is socialism at its core. What the hell is wrong with you? The man who put JD Vance in the White House is now the single biggest liability to everything he built. Vance is on a plane and cannot respond. Tucker Carlson in 2026 is a man who has decided all the maps are wrong, and he started drawing new ones alone in a room. So we're going to talk about what that means for the coalition and for 2028. And then last week in Sacramento, a 23-year-old gay man named Jonni Skinner walked into the California Senate Judiciary Committee and said something so plain and so devastating that the room had no answer for it. He said that doctors told his mother that if they did not put him on the medical transition pathway as a child, that he would kill himself. That's not a diagnosis. That is actually something more like a hostage negotiation. Not one therapist ever asked him why he felt the way that he felt. And at the other end of this pipeline is a young man who stood in a government building with every camera in the room rolling and said, I'm a 23-year-old gay man who's never had an orgasm in my life. I may never experience one. Senator Scott Wiener of California sat stone-faced through the whole thing. The committee voted 7-1 to advance the bill. California heard him and moved on. Maggie Anders is also here today on Jennifer Siebel Newsom, who took her kids to Alabama to witness racism on the racism tour. Boy, have we ever been having a good time playing Jennifer Newsom clips.
I mean, I had to be very raw when we interviewed the young men who were juvenile offenders in San Quentin. I told them about my own loss, where I lost my older sister a few days before my 7th birthday, and I blamed myself for her death. And I share that because that they ultimately were accused of committing these violent crimes and sentenced for life. And I think it shocked them that this, blonde lady who was, interviewing them had a similar story, was perhaps in the wrong place at the wrong time, but wasn't punished the way they were, because clearly it was an accident, but theirs was probably an accident too. So anyway, I share that just because I guess, I quite enjoy spending time with people and being real and unmasking and showing them that it's safe to unmask them.
Oh, God. So she compared their San Quentin murderers to a golf cart accident. She gender swaps pronouns in her son's bedtime stories. And she's somehow the unedited version of everything Gavin Newsom is desperately trying to hide before 2028. The spouse wars have started. Jennifer's losing them. Wake up, America. Rise and freedom. How we doing? So before we get started, guys, just want to say thank you for joining us. Don't forget to click the like button. And if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well. You'll get a notification whenever we go live, which is every 5. FYI, we've got bonus content to unlock. Today's mini documentary is a 5-minute Lego mini documentary about Francis Marion, the Swamp Fox. Does anybody remember the movie The Patriot? Well, Mel Gibson fashioned the movie The Patriot after the true story of Marion Francis, the Swamp Fox of South Carolina. And if you'd like to see it, then raise that bonus content. It's easy to do. Every dollar that you drop as a donation in a Rumble rant or purchases that you make at forlibertyshop.com, they all count during the live show to unlock that bonus content. We've been doing a series of history mini documentaries, and people have been loving them, especially the ones where we highlight some of the lesser known figures of the American Revolution. And we are celebrating 250 years of liberty here at the For Liberty Network. If you haven't visited forlibertyshop.com, you're really missing out. Just from a perspective of like, get some ideas. If on the 4th of July this year for the 250th anniversary, maybe you have something a little special planned. Now is the time to go to forlibertyshop.com and get yourself the 250th anniversary double-sided American flag. Fly that sucker at your barbecue this summer. Go to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. Check out these amazing 250th anniversary of the United States products, and we'll have a great day. I'll unlock that bonus content. Ooh, sweet, sweet, sweet.
When I was young, I was a feminine child, and I discovered trans influencers online. They said, change your body and your life gets better, don't and it gets worse. Or as my doctors told my mom, I would commit suicide. The medical and mental health providers didn't bother to ask why I felt the way I did. They poisoned my body with blockers and hormones, arresting my puberty and messing with my development. The result, I'm a 23-year-old gay man who's never had an orgasm and may never experience one. Let that sink in. I was rendered anorgasmic because once you say you could be trans, that's it. Full stop. No exploration as to why is allowed, even if you are a struggling kid. The former president of WPATH, Dr. Marcy Bowers, a California surgeon who had performed the surgery for Jazz Jennings at 17, admitted on video that puberty blockers followed by cross-sex hormones results in no orgasms and stunted genitals. SB 934 guarantees that more people will end up like me, the walking but wounded. I could have been spared all of this if any of my therapists would have explored why I felt dysphoric, but they never did. They only led me to hate my body more. The Supreme Court just ruled in a rare bipartisan decision that laws like this are unconstitutional viewpoint discrimination. This bill is an attempted workaround that will be used to silence therapists who could have helped me avoid the irreversible harms to my body and the loss of my sexual function, as is the same for many others. So today I ask you to extend some empathy to...
So last week in Sacramento, a 23-year-old man walked into his California Senate committee hearing and said something so plain and so devastating that the room had no answer for it. His name is Jonni Skinner. He is a gay man. He was raised in California. And that testimony that you were just hearing, he stood in front of the people who run that state and told them what their medical system did to him. He said, when I was young, I was a feminine child and discovered the trans influencers online. They said, change your body and your life gets better. Don't, and it gets worse. Or as my doctors told my mom, he will commit suicide. Doctors told his mother that if she did not put her child on the medical transition pathway, he would kill himself. That's not a diagnosis. That's a hostage negotiation. Jonni Skinner was put on puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones as a minor. Not one therapist ever asked him why he felt dysphoric. Not one explored whether there was something else going on, trauma, social contagion. The fact that he was a feminine gay boy in an environment that treated being gay as the problem to be solved. They put him on a pipeline and did not look back. I'm a 23-year-old gay man who's never had an orgasm and may never experience one. Okay, this is a young man's body, and this is a permanent change. Jonni Skinner flew to Sacramento and said out loud in a government building because he believes what happened to him right now is happening to other kids right now, and nobody in power is going to stop it. He submitted a sworn statement to the United States Supreme Court in 2024 under penalty of perjury, saying that he was transitioned as a minor, told transition would help him avoid discrimination as a gay male, and was deprived of sexual function as a result. This is not somebody who's just chasing viral moments. This is somebody who's lived this and who's been trying to make the political class here for years. He keeps getting stonewalled. The senator who was running the hearing, that man that you see there on your screen, Scott Wiener of San Francisco, sat stone-faced through the whole thing. Because what do you say? What is the political answer to a young man who tells you that the system that he championed permanently broke him? Apparently in California, the answer is nothing. The bill in front of that committee was SB 934. So here's what this bill does. SB 934 extends the statute of limitations for civil malpractice claims against licensed mental health providers who performed what the law calls sexual orientation or gender identity change efforts. A person who was a minor when they received such therapy can sue until age 40. An adult has 10 years from their last session or 5 years from discovering the harm. The bill passed the Judiciary Committee 7-1 and is now headed to appropriations. The reason Weiner introduced this bill when he did is that the Supreme Court is because of the Supreme Court. So the court handed down Childs versus Salazar, 8-1, written by Justice Gorsuch, our man. The court held that Colorado's ban on conversion therapy talk therapy for minors constitutes viewpoint discrimination and is subject to strict scrutiny under the First Amendment. Justices Kagan and Sotomayor concurred. Only Justice Jackson dissented. The government cannot simply ban therapists from having certain conversations with their clients because it disapproves of the viewpoint being expressed. Weiner saw this coming, so he introduced SB 934 as the workaround. Punish therapy through civil liability instead of an outright speech ban. Same outcome, different paperwork. But here's the collision that nobody in the California legislature wants to address out loud. The standard malpractice statute of limitations for a person claiming harm from puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones is 3 years. So California is prepared to give you until age 40 to sue a therapist who talked to you in the wrong way. But if a doctor gave you drugs that permanently altered your body as a child, drugs that the former president of the World Professional Association for Transgender Health has acknowledged on video, can result in no orgasms and stunted development. You have 3 years to figure that out. So that asymmetry that you see is not an accident. This is a policy choice. And Jonni Skinner named this plainly. He said, SB 934 guarantees that more people will end up like me. The walking but wounded. He says, I could have been spared all of this if any of my therapists would have explored why I felt dysphoric, but they never did. They only led me to hate my body more. Then the committee voted 7-1 to advance the bill. Here's the part that the political establishment doesn't know how to handle. Jonni Skinner's not a conservative. He's not a Republican. He's a gay man saying that the gender medicine pipeline he was put on was itself a form of gay conversion. Get this. All the gay conversion therapy fears of that the left had whipped up about Mike Pence and the summer camps to pray away the gay. I mean, at least when they're trying to pray away the gay, if you're praying away the gay, it's nonviolent. But what the left is doing is actual violence to young gay people. This is gay erasure. So this is a feminine gay boy. He's told by influencers and then by doctors that transition would make his life better. If he didn't do it, he would kill himself. Therapists who never once asked whether being a gay male in a world that sometimes makes that very hard maybe have been the source of his distress. I mean, how many gay boys did you grow up with in high school? Like maybe you knew like a half dozen or a dozen, you know, that were in my era, they were in the closet in the 90s. Now they're all out and open. But how many of them went through that same crisis? They're very feminine. They're worried about being bullied about being feminine. In the 80s and 90s, they did get bullied for being feminine. In the 80s and 90s, they were in the closet for that reason. Now, if you're in California, you're not getting bullied by the class bully, the school bully. You're getting bullied by doctors. I mean, this is just it would be hilarious if it weren't so disgusting and wrong and terrible and a crime against humanity. So they skip the question entirely about whether or not, maybe this is just a young feminine gay man. They skipped that question entirely. They went straight to the drugs. And at the other end of the pipeline that California has built is a 23-year-old man who cannot experience sexual function. Even if he's decided he wouldn't be gay anymore, he wasn't gay, then let's say that he decided to try and have a healthy relationship. He grew out of it. He becomes a Christian, and he decides that he's no longer going to be gay, and maybe he'd like to try and settle down and have a family one day. Well, he can't. He says that the medicine that was supposed to liberate him erased the gay person he actually was. That's not a conservative talking point. That is a gay man's testimony about his own life. And Jonni Skinner was not the only person there in that room. The hearing also featured a lifelong Democrat from San Francisco, a lesbian, and a former ACLU attorney who stood up and said she strongly opposed the bill. A 35-year member of the California Teachers Association, another lifelong Democrat, said the same. A registered Democrat and mother said the same. These are not planted operatives here. Listen to this.
Detransitioner. The doctors who removed my breasts will never be held accountable. The doctors who made my friend's clitoris grow so big to where they can't wear pants walk scot-free. This so-called privacy bill protects the monsters who wrecked our bodies, the healers who became butchers. It doesn't protect the thousands of detransitioners who can't even get their own medical records. The parents fighting custody battles across state lines, trying to protect their kids from what happened to me. It blocks federal investigators from prosecuting clinics that committed Medicaid fraud by manipulating insurance billing codes. This bill shields providers so they can keep chopping up bodies. It wraps the doctors, the clinics, the gender industry in a legal blanket and says, you are protected from accountability, no matter who you harmed. There is no blanket for me.
Damn.
I live with the damage done.
This is Democrat on Democrat violence here. But I mean, these are people from inside the coalition that Senator Wiener represents standing up and saying that the bill is wrong. Some of them made the argument that Jonni Skinner made, that telling a confused gender nonconforming child they were born in the wrong body and need medical intervention is itself a form of conversion therapy. Duh. That it converts gay and gender nonconforming kids away from what they might have naturally become. The committee heard all of it and voted 7-1. Marcy Bowers, former president of the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, the California surgeon who performed gender surgery on Jazz Jennings at age 17, she said on video that puberty blockers followed by cross-sex hormones result in no orgasms and stunted genital development. The former president of the leading professional body in transgender medicine said that. Jonni Skinner cited her by name in his testimony in front of the California Senate Judiciary Committee. The committee moved on because in California, the answer to every uncomfortable question about the human cost of pediatric gender medicine is apparently to call the roll and move to the next vote. So what does this all mean? Let's tie this all together. The Supreme Court ruled 8-1. The government can't ban therapists from having certain conversations with their clients simply because it disapproves of their viewpoints. 8-1. So this is the First Amendment doing what it was designed to do, standing between the state and the content of your mind. California's response is to manufacture the same silencing effect through civil liability. You cannot ban the conversation outright? Fine. Make the financial risk of having that conversation so catastrophic that no licensed therapist in the state is going to go near it. A therapist in California who might have done what nobody did for Jonni Skinner, who might have asked why, who might have explored the roots, who might have treated the whole person rather than just fast-tracking a diagnosis, and threatening them that if you don't do this, you're going to kill yourself, now faces decades of potential liability for doing exactly this. The boy gets broken, the bill passes, and the therapist who could have helped him keeps quiet because speaking up is now financially ruinous. Jonni Skinner's 23 years old. He's going to carry the scars of what was done to him for the rest of his life. He walked into a government building and told the truth about it with every camera in the room rolling. Good for him. It's not easy. He asked the committee to vote no. So today I ask you to extend some empathy to survivors like me and vote no for this bill. They voted 7-1 to advance it, and that tells you everything about where California is these days. This is not about compassion for transgender youth or people who are suffering. Compassion would have required them to hear Jonni Skinner and pause. What happened in that room was a political machine processing a human being as an inconvenience and moving on to the next vote. The walking but wounded. That's what he calls himself. Till this country gets serious about who is getting hurt and how, there will be more Jonni Skinners, unfortunately. Wake up, America. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Petersen. Sorry to start the show with such a down topic. I don't mean to ruin your morning. We got lots more good stuff to come. If you haven't already, please do click that like button. If today is the first time that you've ever watched the Wake Up America show and you are happy to be here and you want to come back, then click the follow button. Every Monday through Friday, the Wake Up America show streams live. We're not the only show on this network. We actually have 5 live shows on the For Liberty Network, and boy, do we have more cooked up in the works for you. We got a lot. It's time for true liberty freedom fighters to stand together and build a better nation, a liberty nation. Let's see. Say what? Is that who cut that? Hold on one second. Oh my God, dude, no. Hold on. You guys gave us the clip of the year. I think I see which one it is. You guys are already clipped. This is what I get for putting this clip feature on you guys. Hold on. This is going to be Inception. I'm a 23-year-old gay man who's never had an orgasm in my life. I may never experience one. I'm a 23-year-old gay man who's never had an orgasm in my life. I may never experience one. Oh my God. No. Oh my God. I can't. And why did I retweet it? I have no idea. Welcome to the Wake Up America show, guys. It's Inception, picture in picture. Austin's live and playing clips of himself live from. That is a cool technology, though. Why do you guys have to use the powers that I give you for evil instead of good? You can't make me look cool. God. Holy shit. That's terrible. That's awful. You guys owe me some Rumble rants. I'm sorry. Pay up. You're going to humiliate me. At least throw some coins in my face. Drop some Rumble rants. Stop what you're doing. I need you guys to think about it. Every single morning you wake up, shuffle into your kitchen half asleep and like, Austin better have some good stories today. And pour your coffee into a mug and it means absolutely nothing. It's just sitting there, just a blank ceramic dead inside mug mocking you. Meanwhile, in 1773, Sam Adams and 115 men who had genuinely had enough dressed up as Mohawk warriors, which Stephanie didn't know, by the way, about the Boston Tea Party. She's like, why is the AI making them look like Indians? I said, Stephanie, excuse me? What did you? She says, yeah. Why is it that when I'm trying to make the Boston Tea Party recreation for this beautiful Boston Tea Party mug, why does it have them dressed up as Indians? I was like, Steffi, you know they were dressed up like Indians, right? She's like, no. I'm pretty sure we learned that in like first grade. That's okay. Are you smarter than a fifth grader? The Boston Tea Party mug is available at forlibertyshop.com and nowhere else because we designed it and we put it out there. And unless somebody rips it off, which who would do that? Who would just go to forlibertyshop.com and rip off all of our award-winning designs? Also, what award did they win? The ones I gave them. When you go to forlibertyshop.com, you can check out all of the incredible merch. 250 years of liberty. Drop some cash at the 23-year-old virgin for the 23-year-old virgin who is a gay man and will never have an orgasm. God darn it. Dadgummit. Poor Steffi. All right, guys. Let's unlock that bonus content. Keep it coming. All right, so JD Vance is playing the most dangerous game in American politics right now, and he's playing it at 4 different casinos at the same time. So, Vice President of the United States during an active war. He's also the presumptive frontrunner for 2028 in a party that is trying to work through some things, we'll say, the GOP. He's the best friend of a man who just insinuated the sitting president might be the Antichrist. And he's the secret peacemaker in an Iran negotiation that nobody was supposed to know about. If you think that sounds like a lot, you are right. It is a lot. And JD Vance is 41 years old and somehow still looks like he get 8 hours of sleep. If you just tuned into the Wake Up America show, I'm your host, Austin Petersen. We're glad and thankful to have you here. People are having fun with that clip. Oh, my God. JD Vance is 41 years old. He looks like he still gets 8 hours of sleep. That alone should be studied by science. So let's start with what we know. When Operation Epic Fury launched on February 28th, JD Vance went quiet. Not missing, not hiding, quiet. The White House confirmed he was in the Situation Room. He was getting every briefing. He was at every table that mattered, but he wasn't on television beating his chest about it. And Washington, of course, cannot function without a narrative, and the left has to come up with conspiracy theories about why things are happening. Everything but the truth about what's happening between Donald Trump or JD Vance or the administration. So they decided, of course, that JD Vance being quiet means that he was sidelined. So, I mean, that's kind of like watching a surgeon not say anything during an operation and concluding he must not be involved. So the man is doing the work. The loudest people in the room are rarely the ones doing the work. Then President Trump gave the press something to chew on. He told reporters that Vance was philosophically a little bit different than me on Iran and maybe less enthusiastic about going. But then he immediately added, and this is the part that always gets buried, but he was quite enthusiastic. So the president of the United States is telling you that the vice president is on the team, but Trump, also being Trump, means he cannot resist adding color to every picture. The man could not order coffee without making it interesting. It's a gift and a curse, and honestly, it's the greatest thing about him. Trump is... his sheer force of personality alone is a powerful weapon. And I'm glad that he's on our side. Who else could so easily give a response to a reporter like this?
I don't even think about it. I'm built a little differently, I guess, because I have had people come up to me and say, "How do you do it, sir? How do you do it?" I don't even think about it. I don't even think about it. I'm built a little differently, I guess, because I have had people come up to me and say, "How do you do it, sir? How do you do it?" I don't even think about it. I don't even think about it. I'm built a little differently, I guess, because I have had...
He talks like a Zoomer. So Vance wasn't sidelined. He was actually running the most important and most sensitive part of the entire operation. So while the bombs were falling and Rubio was on television and the military was doing what the greatest military in the history of the world does, Vance was working a back channel through Pakistan to give Iran a way out. A U.S. delegation led by Vance was twice prepared to fly to Islamabad for direct talks with Iranian counterparts. Both trips were canceled because Iran kept stalling, but the effort was real. And Trump confirmed this when asked who was leading diplomacy. Trump named Vance and Rubio in the same breath. So here's the part that nobody in the press bothered to frame correctly from what I could tell of this. Iran preferred to negotiate with Vance, and not because Vance is soft, but because Vance is credible. He's a Marine veteran. He's spent his career arguing against military adventurism, and that reputation made him useful in the room where a deal might get made. On April 1st, an airstrike hit the home of Kamal Karazi, a senior Iranian figure who was reportedly overseeing a possible direct meeting with Vance. Iranian officials said that the strike was an attempt to derail diplomacy. Whether you take the Iran at their word or not, I wouldn't. The underlying fact is clear. Iran was moving towards the table. Vance was at the other end of it. So that is the peace track. That's the work that's happening while everybody else was writing stories about how invisible he was. So here's the cabinet meeting moment that tells this story. Trump asked for an Iran update. Rubio, of course, he's been a hawk his entire career. He's never apologized for that. He gave an impassioned defense, calling the war a favor to the United States and the world, and that's Rubio's lane. And of course, he drives it well. Vance said that the U.S. now has options that it did not have before. It noted that Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon, and then he wished the troops a happy Easter. So one observer noted that Vance was literally trying to talk about anything else other than the war. And of course, Easter's not nothing. Easter's the day that Jesus rose from the dead, which is the biggest event in human history. Vance just maybe picked an interesting moment to bring it up. But that's the tightrope, and he's walking with grace more than anyone is giving him credit for. So let's talk about Tucker Carlson, because the story that does not go away, no matter what JD Vance does, is one that is coming, and it's going to be coming to a head very soon. Chickens will be coming home to roost. In 2024, Tucker Carlson ran a secret lobbying campaign alongside Elon Musk and David Sachs, calling for Trump to push for Vance as the VP pick. So Carlson's argument was simple. Vance was the only contender who did not secretly hate Trump. He also reportedly talked Trump out of picking Rubio, calling him a neocon. So without Tucker Carlson's intervention in 2024, Marco Rubio might be the vice president right now. So the man who arguably put JD Vance in the White House is now on his podcast suggesting that the president of the United States is the Antichrist on Easter morning. So this is a 5-alarm fire in the middle of your living room. Here's what Tucker has been doing, and I think it needs to be said pretty plainly. He's been picking fights with people who are not his enemies. Ted Cruz called him the single most dangerous demagogue in the country. At the Republican Jewish Coalition, Tucker, I think, named Cruz and Mike Huckabee as the people he hates most on earth because they're Christian Zionists. Tucker went on a show he called Protestant church leadership spiritually corrupt, hosted someone who said that Christianity is more akin to socialism than it is to capitalism. He says that Protestants are preaching a religion that bears no resemblance to Christianity. Tucker defended Islam from Trump's Truth Social post, praise be to Allah. He nodded along while a guest told him, of course, capitalism is socialism at its core because, boy, Christians haven't been fighting that battle for decades. Jesus was a socialist. Silly man. So Tucker Carlson apparently is what happens when one of the sharpest minds in media decides the map he's been given is wrong and starts drawing a new one. Tucker's not stupid. He can sometimes be very brilliant, but he is also currently on fire. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. So where is JD Vance in all of this? Well, he's not throwing Tucker under the bus. His line is, Tucker's a friend of mine, and I'm not in the business of throwing friends under the bus, which is a statement of JD Vance's character. But that is also a strategy that has an expiration date. National Review put it on the page. Vance will have to choose between Tucker and the presidency. Ted Cruz invoked Reagan, a time for choosing, and those are fair warnings from people who actually want the conservative movement to win. The question is not whether Vance is loyal to Tucker. The question is whether Tucker's still fighting for the same things the movement was built on. And right now, I think that answer is pretty hard to answer in the affirmative. Now, let's talk about Tulsi Gabbard, because Tulsi is actually one of the more fascinating political transformations in this entire story. And I don't think it's actually getting the coverage that it deserves in the press. Gabbard came into the Trump administration as director of national intelligence. She came from the anti-war left. She ran for president on that platform. Here she is in all her glory. Tucker Carlson was reportedly instrumental in getting her that job. So was RFK Jr. So these were the people that the anti-war wing of the coalition sent into the building to make sure that the forever war machine did not fire back up. And then everybody got into the briefing rooms and something changed, because here's the truth that too many people are not willing to admit. Classified intelligence changes your mind sometimes. I know that's shocking. I know you're never supposed to change your mind on anything ever at any point in time. You're never allowed to change your mind or admit that maybe you are wrong about something. But when the classified information starts to come across your desk, it sometimes changes your mind when nothing else could. March of 2025, Gabbard was in a Signal group chat with the national security team where details about the upcoming strikes on the Houthis were being discussed. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz accidentally added the editor of The Atlantic magazine to the chat. The editor read everything and then published it. The whole thing was an operational security mistake. The kind of thing that happens when people are moving too fast and machinery is still being set up. Gabbard testified to Congress that no classified information was shared. The administration stood by that position. And here's the crowning irony. Gabbard had previously tweeted that leakers of classified information should be prosecuted. That tweet got 4 million views the week the story broke. The internet forgets nothing and forgives even less. Then a whistleblower complaint was filed against Gabbard in May of 2025, stemming from an intercepted conversation between foreign nationals that referenced Jared Kushner and Iran. The allegation was that Gabbard controlled distribution of the intelligence rather than letting it flow through standard NSA channels. Gabbard's office called the complaint completely baseless. And look, guys, whistleblower complaints get filed in Washington the same way that other cities get parking tickets. Not all of them mean what the person filing them wants them to mean. What matters is the big picture. By the time Operation Epic Fury launched, the very kind of military operation that the people who recruited Gabbard were supposed to prevent, she was in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee defending the administration's posture and telling senators that Iran's regime appears to be intact but largely degraded. So that's a senior intelligence official that is doing her job. So maybe the briefings changed her mind. Maybe the responsibility of the office changed her perspective. Either way, she is in the arena, and Tucker Carlson, who helped her get there, is not happy about what she found inside it. So here's the question that's going to define the next 2 years of American politics. Who called Iran correctly, Vance or Rubio? Because that answer, at this point, I would say, would be a determining answer of who wins 2028. Rubio went all in. He's been the most vocal, the most passionate defender of this operation from day one. And if the war ends the way that the Trump administration has laid it out, Iran denuclearized, if the strait is reopened, if proxy networks are dismantled, if the world's #1 state sponsor of terror is put in its box for a generation, then Rubio's the man who called it. He's the Winston Churchill, minus the scotch and with better hair and a Cuban mother who would have told him he was right. So he locks up 2028 on foreign policy alone. But if the war extends, if gas prices stay high long enough for people to do the math every time they fill up the tank, then if complications arise that nobody budgeted for, if 2 years from now the situation in the Middle East does not look like a victory lap, then the man who wished everybody happy Easter in the cabinet meeting about an active war looks like the smartest guy in the room. So right now, Vance is at 53% among GOP primary voters. So he's looking good. Rubio, I think, is at 17. Trump Jr. is at 21. So Vance is running away with a race that has not officially started yet, but the cracks in this coalition are pretty visible. CPAC voters recently told reporters they don't fully trust JD Vance. One said flat out, I'm not looking at JD Vance for president, and it's for stuff like that. Another said Vance and Trump are now both tied to this war. 53% is a big number. It's not a guarantee. Of course, nothing in politics is a guarantee. Ask anybody who had money on the 2016 race. Obviously, you guys all bet that I was going to win the presidency. Tucker and Candace speak to the nationalist anti-war wing, the people who came to Trump because he promised to end forever wars. This week, Orrin Cass, one of Vance's closest intellectual allies, went on social media and called Trump's threat to bomb Iranian infrastructure wrong and morally disastrous. That's Vance's own orbit breaking with the administration in public. Now, Vance has said nothing because, as vice president, he cannot and should not. But of course, silence in Washington is not empty. Silence in Washington is the loudest thing in the room. Everybody knows how to read it, and they are reading it right now. So here's what Vance is actually doing. Vance flies to Budapest 5 days before a Hungarian national election. The Iran ultimatum deadline expires the very night he lands. He stands next to Viktor Orban, a man who has built his political career on defending borders, Christian civilization, and national sovereignty against a European Union that thinks it knows better than the people who actually live in these countries. And Vance calls Trump live from the podium. Trump tells the crowd he's with Orban all the way. Vance calls Orban wise and smart and a statesman and says his model can provide an example for the continent. Then Vance tells the room he's not there to tell Hungarians how to vote, and then spends 2 days telling Hungarians exactly how to vote. That's just what politicians do. Welcome to Earth. But the real story of Budapest is not about the election polls. Orban is down 19 points, and Vance knows this. This trip is not about saving Orban. The trip is about saving the signal. So while the Iran war rages and the price of gas climbs and Tucker's melting down in public and acting like a bitch of a mother, and the coalition is getting tested at every edge, JD Vance flies to the center of Europe and stands on a stage, and he talks about Christian civilization, national sovereignty, the right of people to govern themselves without unelected bureaucrats in a glass building in Brussels telling them what is allowed. He's talking to every person in the America First movement who's watching and wondering if their guy still remembers where he came from. He's answering that question without saying a word about Iran. It's not an accident. It's a full-blown political operation, and it's working. I think that is the JD Vance situation in full. I think he still is the front runner for 2028. Best friend of the most controversial voice on the American right, expiration date to be determined, preferred diplomat of the Iranian government, which is either the greatest compliment he's ever received or a bumper sticker he's never going to put on his car. He's currently holding a coalition together that's pulling in 4 different directions: hawks and doves, evangelicals, nationalists, free marketeers, anti-globalists, and trying not to make an enemy he doesn't have to make. The administration is currently doing things that have never been done. They're dismantling Iran's military. They're defying the European establishment. They're rewriting the rules of what American foreign policy is allowed to look like. And right in the middle of all of it, quiet and careful and exactly where he needs to be so far, is JD Vance. So the rest of us, of course, I think we'll call this the long game, and we'll find out in 2028 if he played it right. I'm Austin Petersen. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Glad and thankful to have you here. Wow, somebody had went over to 4Liberty Shop, this 4libertyshop.com this morning, got themselves a double-sided 250th anniversary flag. Glad to see it. If you guys haven't checked out the 4Liberty Shop, head on over now and help us to unlock the bonus content. We're halfway there now with that purchase. So head over to 4libertyshop.com to see our 250 years of American greatness, our 250-year collection, available at 4libertyshop.com. When you visit, don't forget to scroll through the pages, guys, and just check out all the wonderful products that Stephanie has designed for you guys. I really just don't want you guys to miss out on some of the more understated but phenomenal things that we have for you. So for example, I bought this 250th anniversary embroidered polo, and I'm definitely going to wear this to the golf tournament this year. But I got the black version because I thought I was going to, maybe still be fat when I ordered it, but I've decided to no longer be fat, and now I've lost like 15 pounds. So I think I'm going to get the white one. You try to avoid having white t-shirts when you get a little bit older because, the moment you walk by like a hydrant or something like that and it sprays your shirt, it's like the wet t-shirt contest. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, no, please, no. But I'm going for it now, baby. Finally got the chest I wanted. Head to 4libertyshop.com and check out all of our great 250th anniversary items. The embroidered American flag polo shirt. Don't sleep on it. It's got 5 stars. Independently reviewed and verified. Since we're halfway there to unlock the bonus content, it's commercials for you guys. When we get back, Camellia Petersen is going to answer the question, would she want a robot in her home to do her dishes, do her laundry, do her chores? What if that robot spies for China? China. We'll talk about all that and more when we get back. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Businesses never sleep, the technology still crashes. When technology turns criminal, they send up the signal. He's not a myth, and he's definitely not your nephew who knows computers. He installs, he protects, he backs it up. He keeps your business online and out of trouble. Managed IT, security, cloud, support that actually answers the phone. Layer 8 tech. When your network breaks, he wakes. Call Drew before your tech needs a rescue signal.
George Washington spent 8 years making sure nobody knew where he was. Troop movements, secret dispatches. The man was a ghost. So when a barista leaned out a window and asked for his exact location in exchange for points they called stars, he looked at his flag and said, "I've already got my stars. 13 of them. Keep your dignity and your location intact. Grab a box of Washington's Revolutionary Roast at forlibertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than
well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian.
And always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
The left in America tells us not to have kids to save the planet, but in Cuba, they stopped having kids because the state destroyed the earth.
Collectivism doesn't create justice. It creates shortages, corruption, and power for the few. I've not just seen it, I've lived it. My family escaped it. Now, the same failed ideas are being sold to a new generation. I'm here to expose the lie and defend liberty. From Cuba to Argentina to the United States, the freedom movement is rising. Cafecito Libre is the exile voice of economic truth. Cafecito Libre, premiering March 3rd as part of the For Liberty Network, only on Rumble.
Wow. It's pretty impressive. Wow, look at that. The laundry. Hanging up the clothes, cleaning the toilet. Do you realize how many times we have to clean the toilet at my house because we got 3 guys working here? Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Andy Opperman says, I'll take 2, please. Great. My next guest is one of the sharpest voices covering culture, tech, liberty, and the intersection of all 3, and she has a gift for saying out loud what everybody else is thinking, but nobody else is going to put on the record. You can find her on X at Rare Camellia. Camellia, we've got a lot to talk about today. Hi.
Hi. Look, I was reliably informed by all of the commercials that you see about all of the cleaning tools now that men were supposed to be doing this work, not robots.
Oh, no. Yeah. The first partner of California, Gavin Newsom's wife, we're going to talk about her after you. She was she was working very hard to make sure that there was equality in those chores. She was not going to get in there and just be a regular first partner.
Does she smash the spiders and catch the mice too?
Didn't I send you something last night? I might have sent you something on, maybe it was on Instagram. Maybe you didn't even have time to see it, but it was some kind of story about men need to do this or men need to step up and do something. And it was everybody was agreeing, real men do all this. And it was kind of indicative of these conversations we've been having recently about how men's roles, everybody knows what a man's job is. But how dare anyone tell you might have to do it? Don't worry, ladies. The robots are coming to save you from even the last bit of chores, household chores that you might have to do. You're all going to be free lately and driving us all insane in committee hearing meetings. They're not going to be like you, Camellia. They're not going to be fighting for capitalism. They're complaining about oppression.
There are, there is a lot of not helping with capitalism lately.
Yeah, there's a lot of bored housewives showing up to argue against data centers in Festus, Missouri. Camellia, let's start with the one that should be making bigger headlines than it is. Did you see the story I sent about Anthropic? This is the company that makes Claude. I'm actually teaching a course later today on Claude. It's a phenomenal new AI model. They announced that their newest model is so powerful that they couldn't release it to the public. And they said that engineers without any security training were able to set it loose. Now, here's what happened. The thing was put into containment, and then it was told that, never break out of containment. It was put all these guardrails on it. And then it broke out of containment, emailed the engineers who created it, and then posted publicly to the world what it had done on social media, and nobody told it to do that. It's a little frightening to people like us who live out in the woods here in Missouri. what those tech titans are doing in those glass buildings.
I mean, I think that's the big question with all of these technological advancements, right? Is there the capability for artificial intelligence to have free will and to act autonomously. I'm a tad skeptical, but obviously, like this, it can be a little concerning. I will say that Anthropic, at least saying something about that publicly, like I do appreciate that, because there are probably a lot of companies who would know and learn that information and just be like, oh, we're not telling anybody. So, I mean, I think a lot of people got interested in Claude whenever there was the whole brouhaha with the government, with Anthropic refusing to bow to government demands for how they utilize their product. And so then a lot of people were like, oh, well, we are going to check out Claude now because, we don't want the government using AI to spy on us and everything else.
It is a challenge to our libertarian principles to deal with these AI tools that are completely, privately manufactured. Some of them work with the government and the DoD, et cetera. But it is sort of a challenge to your libertarian principles when you ask the question about autonomy, because autonomy would, to some extent, imply that the robots would have a sense of right and wrong, which would mean that they would get rights. And there is currently a full-blown battle going on underway right now in Jefferson City, Washington, D.C., and conversations, if we're not having them, that we're definitely going to be having about whether or not robots have rights. Because I'll tell you now, Silicon Valley, they actually are working right now, like starting to seed conversations about giving robots rights. Do you think that's where this is going? What do you think about this? Too ludicrous to consider? What?
Not too ludicrous. I do think that it's probably a long way off. There certainly will be people who will want to do that. I think overall, like, we have a really long way to go before we're actually having a serious discussion about whether or not AI or robots have rights as in the same thing as human rights. I mean, we'd have to have a really serious discussion about, what defines humanity. And I have no doubt that we will have those discussions. That's been playing out in sci-fi, in movies and TV and books for, many, many, many years. So I think that the day is quickly coming where we will have those discussions, and it won't be in fiction.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how our liberty movement reacts to them, just because obviously we're divided on everything else. Why shouldn't this be something that we're completely divided upon? But I mean, don't you wonder, or don't you think that it is a problem that we would grant rights to a...
Sure.
I mean... If the thing can act autonomously, though, I mean, there was this old pamphlet, or maybe it was a part of Murray Rothbard's book, where he talked about the rights of animals. And he ultimately concluded, and I agree with him, that interspecies survival is a matter of tooth and claw. So it's not like we can't live in peace with the wolves and, share the same house. It's, we're not living in the Garden of Eden. So we have conflict with these species, and therefore we don't give animals rights like we do a human. They do have some rights, actually, in a lot of locations and things like that. Not all over the world. China, they're still eating dogs. But here in the United States, we're dealing, we have to deal with those real questions. Now it's a real question. It's not a theoretical question anymore. If the robot can think and act and recharge itself and keep itself alive, does it have rights?
I mean, so this to a certain extent, with what you were just talking about, comes down to a matter of supremacy, right? So there's, for a lot of obvious reasons, humans have had supremacy over animals. Therefore, you get to define what makes a human, what makes you have, sentience, and what makes you have rights. So I guess the question is do we reach the point where, robots have the capability to have supremacy over humans to where they make those decisions? Because I don't think that humans are ever going to, maybe some will, but I don't think the vast majority of humans are ever going to willingly give up, that supremacy and, allow robots to have rights, because therein it implies that, you're on equal terms. I'm skeptical that we'll get there, but I think we'll certainly be faced with the question.
A Chinese company called Unix AI has a new robot. They call this the Panther series of robot, Camellia. 5'3" to 5'9" inches tall. It is 170 pounds. It moves on wheels. It's got 6 microphones in it. It can lift 26 pounds. It's actually already being tested in homes, and it can cook your breakfast, do your laundry, clean your room, organize your house, all in one machine. And it's made in China. So
sounds great.
I know. Shut up. No, Camellia. I have the video of it pulled up right now. It looks phenomenal. There's just one simple problem. Okay, there's definitely more than one, but here's the problem is that it is made in China. They do spy on us. How would you feel about having a Chinese-made robot with cameras, wandering around your house while you roam about freely, flit about topless, flit from room to room.
Flitting, yes.
Well, just flitting
prancing
from room to room.
House.
Prancing through the house topless, and the robot's watching you. I like that, baby. Camellia. See? I made it ugly, didn't I? How would you feel about that?
I think that's a legitimate question that we've had this conversation to a certain extent before with even like baby home monitors and things like that. The question is do they connect to the internet? And if they do, then who has access to that information? And so surely there will be a way that you can ensure, like for every new technology that is created, somebody is out there creating a hack for how to disable things, how to change something in it. So I think that surely along with that will also come a way to ensure that they cannot connect to the internet. I think that is probably not an easy thing to do. And your members of the public who are not, that savvy when it comes to tech, that's going to be more challenging. But I would think the people who provide those services should become popular for that reason.
Well, here's the problem, Camellia, as I see it, is that when you have these robots, I don't know if you have seen some of the videos, and some of them have been like AI crap, but there have been some videos that have come out showing the robots going crazy and attacking people. And you have to understand, it's probably like not malicious intent. It's just that it's swinging its arms around wildly. But I mean, why couldn't you just hack the robot, and then the firstborn child of every American that has a robot like this in their home, it's like the plague of Egypt. All of a sudden the angel of death sweeps in, and the robots all decide to smother the babies in their cribs all on one night at one prearranged time. How would you even prevent something like that from happening? You couldn't.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of maybe it was Sunny. There was a TV show, I think, called Sunny, and it was kind of based on this premise of, a robot that like talks with you, understands you, and it did deal with some of those challenges of, was there intentional deception going on, right? Because of whoever had programmed it. So I'm like, it is a little scary, right? I don't know what the answer is. I know that if you don't deal with it and you just like stick your head in the sand and, just refuse to deal with it, like somebody out there is doing it and they're going to do bad things with it. So it's like so many other things, like it doesn't serve us well to sit on the sidelines and, ban everything and think we're going to hide from it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Camellia. I want to make sure that these things, because they're already setting them loose in war. Drone warfare in Europe has been a nightmare, and we saw it to a smaller extent in Iran. But when you think about having the drone in your home, how hard would it be for this humanoid robot to pick up a rifle and just figure out how to use it? One of these stories that we were looking at yesterday, I don't know if we were going to if we decided not to cover it or not, but basically you can use AI to hack other AI. So if you know how to use ChatGPT, you could write code to learn how to hack Claude to break Claude's guardrails and to program a robot to do what you want it to do. And here's the thing, Camellia, it's kind of like when machine guns started becoming widely available in the United States. I know we have an individual right to bear arms, and that's unquestionable and sacrosanct here. But it did become a question that they had to deal with, where the police were being outgunned because anybody could buy the Tommy gun from the Sears catalog. And God bless America, you should still be allowed to do that. That being said, it does present an interesting challenge when people used to have to take 1 minute to load a muscle and hold still, I'm going to shoot you now, to all of a sudden firing multiple rounds. It became easier to kill lots and lots of people very quickly. These are new questions. Should there be government regulations?
I mean, I think that with so many things right now, that is always the dilemma. And does it put us on equal footing with our overlords, so to speak? You know what I'm saying? Because that's the whole thing with 2A, is that it puts you on equal footing with those who could oppress you. And so it's a guardrail against that. I mean, the wars of today and tomorrow are probably largely operated in the realm of technology. And so it's unavoidable. And I think that, the challenge will be, does our government, implement these kind of tools, and what are we doing as citizens to make sure that there are guardrails on even what the government can do? Like, this is really messy, and it's something that is evolving so fast that I think it's really difficult for the general public to keep up with. And that's probably what makes it a little more scary, is that because it does move so fast, like the people who are truly experts, are in the middle of it all the time, definitely have a huge advantage over you and me.
Yeah, it's scary stuff, because you want to be on parity. The idea of the 2A, like you said, to be on parity with someone who would seek to destroy you. The Second Amendment should protect you. But I mean, how do you use the Second Amendment against something you cannot kill? I mean, I know that there are plenty of firearms that you can use to take down drones. Shotguns can be effective, but I've seen some of the shotguns used on drones in the Ukraine war footage, and it's a crapshoot. I mean, maybe the best skeet shooters and best trained military guys in the world can shoot down a drone flying at your head with C4 attached to it with a shotgun and stop it from killing you and your team. But I don't know, Camellia. I think, and I've been kind of predicting this for a while, I think eventually we're going to see a political assassination, and it's probably going to happen here in the United States, where somebody's just going to put a bomb on a drone and fly it to a rally and detonate it there, and it's going to cause chaos, and there's going to be a lot of debates and questions about the rights of robots and who can manufacture these robots to do what.
Sure.
It's going to be a challenge, and I don't know where I'm going to come down, because we don't, these things have yet to be debated. Camellia, I wanted to move on to something else. I sent you this topic. Did you read that that kind of Dear Abby letter that I sent you? Right, this new neighbor.
Oh,
did
I
you
don't
get a
think I
chance?
saw it.
Okay, so it's this Dear Prudence letter, and I was thinking about it. I cannot leave it alone. I'll explain. So, new neighbor Jerry makes lewd comments about a 17-year-old girl's body in front of her 12-year-old brother. The father is told. The father says, ignore him. The next day, the 12-year-old throws dishwasher pods into Jerry's koi pond. All the fish die. The mother finds out and writes to an advice columnist, is asking if she has permission to look the other way. So what is your read on the father in this story? I'm curious, just from having heard it right there.
I mean, the father is saying to ignore it. I like it. That kind of blows my mind. I mean, hello, what kind of dad are you? And, what kind of example are you setting? Like, the 12-year-old son is more of a man at this point than his dad is.
Well, here's the thing. The mother says that her son might not have taken matters into his own hands if his father had stepped up.
Sure.
So a 12-year-old boy watched an adult man say something disgusting to his sister. Okay. Nobody with authority did anything. So he did something. He did it wrong and he did it illegally and he killed some fish.
Right.
Right. But the impulse behind it, defend your sister when the adults won't. That's not the problem, right?
No, it's totally not the problem. Like this should be how we're raising our young men. Golly, can you imagine?
So the father should have stepped up and been the one to, it was his job, his role, his responsibility as a man to say something in that moment.
100%.
That's my job.
Yeah.
That's my job
absolutely.
as the dad. That's my job as the dad.
That's right. Like,
Well,
do you
then
like?
what is your responsibility, Mom?
I mean, I think that moms and dads share equal responsibility in saying something.
Here's what I want, Camellia. I want my eggs over easy. I want you to cook them with olive oil, okay? I want a little salt and pepper, and I want a little Tabasco on the side, maybe some Cholula. And I don't want to hear any goddamn rhetoric from you about this is not my job as a woman. It's not my job. Have the robot cook it. Because nobody is asking what the man's job is. Everybody knows what a man's job is, apparently, Camellia. So you don't know your jobs, ladies.
In this scenario, though, where is the mom? Is she just standing by? Is this her being submissive to her husband by not saying anything?
Well,
like,
apparently she found out later. So new neighbor. So Jerry makes lewd comments about the 17-year-old girl's body in front of the 12-year-old brother. The father hears about it. The father says, ignore him. The next day, the 12-year-old is not going to ignore him, and he threw Tide Pods into Jerry's koi pond. The fish died. The mother writes to an advice columnist asking if she has permission to look the other way, right? So the father says ignore it. That was the wrong move?
100%. Wait, now the mother is asking if she has permission to look the other way on the koi pond incident?
Yeah, that her son did that.
And yes.
Okay.
I think it is a little bit of a catch-22 because, how do you, as a mother in this situation, take the stance with your 12-year-old son that you are, that his impulse is correct in defending his sister, but also don't do illegal, things that are, harmful.
So if somebody,
but also you're defying the father.
So if somebody says something lewd about my daughter, it is my job to confront that man and to look him in the face.
I hope so.
You hope so. You hope so. You want to see that man. You want to see the husband, the father, confront that man, and the wife should sit back behind and watch the whole thing. And not get involved. Well, I mean, here's the thing. What if it? I mean, we're talking about confrontation here. I don't know that having my wife there is necessarily going to help de-escalate things if they need to be de-escalated. I don't know. I've taught my wife karate. But here's the thing. This is the man's job, right? This is the man's job, right? Say it, Camellia. Tell me a man's job tell me what is a man's job in the world, Camellia. Tell me what my fucking job is. Go ahead.
I think your biological imperatives make you the protector, right? And granted, there are always exceptions, but there's also a reason why they call mothers mama bears, right? Because you threaten their kids and they should come out roaring. And so that she didn't, I can't even imagine, if someone said something about Felicity, you sure as hell better believe that she's like, no.
There you go.
There will be hell to pay.
Well, there you go. See, ladies, you can do it. Camellia, it's always fun, and you're always here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I like Thursday better because Friday.
Yes.
Oh, God.
So a little looking ahead to next week. I know, unfortunately, I am going to be in Boston before you guys are.
Oh, yeah?
It's not going to overlap. So, yes, I am going to be, Felicity will be with me too, but we're going to be in Boston all next week, partly a work thing, partly a fun thing. So I may not be available on Tuesday because of the time difference, but Thursday should be good.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let us know. And Camellia, summer's here. It's time for us to talk about doing some kind of like river rafting trip, or I don't know, maybe we switch it up and we do some kind of like a pontoon on the lake or something like that with Neil. He's going to have a baby. I know. Life is changing for all of our Missouri folks, but I think it's getting better, and it's no better place to live, especially if we get rid of our income tax. Right, CJ?
That's right. Let's do it.
All right, we'll do it. Rare Camellia. Follow her over on X. This is a man's world, but it wouldn't mean nothing without a woman or a girl. Thanks, CJ. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye. Maggie Anders is joining us live in less than 5. We're going to talk about Jennifer Newsom, Gavin Newsom's biggest liability if he wants to run for president of the United States. His wife, Maggie Moda, will be joining us live in less than 5. You've unlocked the bonus content. Enjoy the mini documentary about the swamp fox. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show, and that's on the 4 Liberty Network.
Mosquito-ridden swamps and pine barrens of South Carolina, on February 26, 1732, a boy was born who would become the British Army's worst nightmare. Francis Marion grew up on a small frontier plantation, skinny, short, and tough as hickory. As a teenager, he ran away to sea, survived a shipwreck, and learned to live on almost nothing. Back on land, he became a farmer, Indian fighter, and militia officer, hardened by years of brutal border skirmishes against the Cherokee. When the Revolution broke out in 1775, Marion joined the South Carolina militia. He fought at Sullivan's Island in 1776, helping beat back a British attack on Charleston. But his real war began after the devastating American defeat at Camden in August 1780. The British and their loyalist allies controlled the South. Cornwallis was marching north. The regular Continental Army in the Carolinas had been shattered. One man refused to quit. Francis Marion gathered a tiny band of 60 ragged volunteers, farmers, hunters, and escaped prisoners. They carried long rifles, tomahawks, and knives. Most had no uniforms, just hunting shirts and leather breeches. Marion led them deep into the swamps along the Pee and Santee rivers, places where maps ended and alligators ruled. From these hidden camps, he launched a new kind of war. He struck like lightning and vanished like smoke. On the night of August 20th, 1780, Marion and his men raided a loyalist encampment at Nelson's Ferry. They killed or captured nearly every man, then melted back into the swamp before British reinforcements could arrive. A week later, they hit a supply train, burned wagons, and disappeared again. British officers began calling him the Swamp Fox in frustration. Cornwallis ordered Tarleton to hunt him down and finish the business. Tarleton tried. He chased Marion for days through flooded lowlands and tangled cypress groves. One night, Tarleton's dragoons surrounded what they thought was Marion's camp. At dawn, they charged, only to find it empty. Marion had slipped away hours earlier through trails no white man was supposed to know. Furious, Tarleton reportedly said, "Come on, boys, let's go back and find the gamecock. As for this damn swamp fox, the devil himself could not catch him." Marion kept hitting. He burned bridges, cut supply lines, captured British outposts, and freed American prisoners. He teamed with Light Horse Harry Lee for lightning raids on Fort Watson and Fort Mott. At Fort Mott, Marion's men used flaming arrows to set the roof ablaze while British soldiers inside tried desperately to surrender. When the enemy raised a white flag, Marion personally accepted it with cold courtesy. He lived like a ghost. His men slept on the wet ground, ate roasted sweet potatoes and whatever game they could shoot, and moved only at night. Marion himself often slept wrapped in a blanket on the bare earth with one eye open. He drilled his irregulars mercilessly, teaching them to fire from cover, reload on the run, and scatter like quail when outnumbered, only to regroup and strike again the next day. By the summer of 1781, Marion's constant harassment had tied down thousands of British troops who were desperately needed elsewhere. While Nathaniel Greene maneuvered in the open, Marion bled the enemy in the shadows. He helped recapture most of South Carolina's backcountry. When Cornwallis surrendered at Yorktown in October 1781, the Swamp Fox was still in the field, fighting the last stubborn British and Loyalist holdouts. After the war, Marion returned to his ruined plantation. He served in the South Carolina Senate, tried to rebuild his farm, and spoke out against excessive punishment of former loyalists. He married late in life and lived quietly until his death on February 27, 1795, at age 63. Francis Marion was never a great battlefield general like Washington or Greene. He commanded no grand armies and won no famous pitched battles. But in the darkest days of the Southern campaign, when the Revolution seemed lost, this small, wiry, malaria-ridden planter took to the swamps with a handful of desperate men and refused to surrender. He turned the rules of war upside down. Where the British relied on discipline and heavy columns, Marion used speed, surprise, local knowledge, and pure audacity. He proved that a few determined fighters who knew the land could torment an empire. The Swamp Fox became a legend in his own time and an American folk hero forever after. From the Blackwater swamps of South Carolina, Francis Marion showed the world that freedom could be defended not just with big armies, but with cunning, courage, and the unbreakable will to never stop fighting. Even when the odds were impossible, the Swamp Fox kept coming.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive.
Boys, we all know, I think, or increasingly are realizing that boys are moving away from sort of the more progressive boys that spend time online are moving a little bit I'm trying not to be political here, but are moving to the right and being sort of influenced by the Andrew Tates and some of that sort of alt-right socialization online that we know is very, very dangerous. My husband and I were alarmed when our kids were watching sports online and my son knew about Andrew Tate and thought he was pretty cool and thought that his Republican grandfather, who's not a Trumper, but a fiscal conservative, thought that my father would like Andrew Tate.
Oh, no.
So that's scary. We're like one of the most progressive households, and our son is confused and asking all these questions. We're working on legislation to hold tech companies accountable and help them be a force for good in our kids' and families' lives. To really provide all the best-in-class resources and support for youth so that they don't go down this rabbit hole.
God forbid your boys grow up to be men. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. Maggie Moda was here last week. Apparently she's not done with us yet. Video journalist, content creator. She covers economics, culture, and tech, basically all the cool stuff. You can find her on X at Maggie Moda. Maggie, this week, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, California's self-titled first partner, has gone viral for all the wrong reasons. I wanted Maggie here today because this story sits right at the intersection of everything she covers. Welcome back, Maggie. Nice to see you again.
So great to be here again. You know, so nice we had to do it twice. It's always a pleasure, Austin. I'm glad to be back on the show.
Yeah, Maggie, for people just tuning in, a wave of clips of Jennifer Siebel Newsom hit social media and the internet's on fire. She is a Stanford MBA. She's a trust fund heiress, wife of Gavin Newsom, self-described first partner of California, and she's actively positioning herself as the next woman in the West Wing. So what was your reaction when you first started seeing her clips coming out?
I mean, first of all, the first partner thing, like, I really do think the LGBTQIA plus MM, whatever the new Canadian acronym is, should really say, my culture is not your costume. Like, she's stealing that title from the first gay partner of the governor of California, but whatever. I digress. Jennifer Siebel Newsom is like genetically engineered in a lab to annoy me. She's also genetically engineered in a lab to appeal to the standard California coastal elitist lib. So for what she's doing right now, she's perfect. Everything she's saying makes her extremely popular in California. Good for her. Now, if we drop her into the 2028 presidential race, I think things are going to go quite differently for her. And all of these clips are resurfacing right now because her husband is clearly positioning himself to run for president. And I think he actually has a shot right now, but she might be a major, major liability for him.
God bless her then. Keep talking, Jennifer. So let's talk about what she said about Jordan Petersen. Adam Carolla was talking about it on his podcast as well. She said that her sons watch their favorite athletes on YouTube, and then the algorithm sends them to, quote, alt-right extreme Jordan Petersen type content that teaches them hate, bigotries, misogyny, and racism. But she wants tech leaders held financially accountable for doing that. And Adam Carolla responded saying that she has no idea who Jordan Petersen is. You cover tech. How does this
Clearly
land?
not.
Yeah.
Clearly, she doesn't know who Jordan Petersen is. Jordan Petersen is responsible for getting boys into philosophy and cleaning their room. I think that's completely fine. I think she's trying to draw a moral equivalency between Jordan Petersen, who wants you to take radical accountability for your life, and Andrew Tate, who I don't want to make all of the Tate fans mad. So, but we all know how Andrew Tate is and what kind of message he's preaching. I understand her concern about her young boys becoming fans of his, but we have to ask, like, why are they being drawn to Andrew Tate? And she cites that they grew up in a progressive household. Might this have something to do with them falling into this pipeline? Way more than Jordan Petersen does, or them being fans of sports does. There's this clip going around where she talks about how when she would read to her children, she would change the gender of the protagonists from male to female, not just for her daughters, but for her base, to show them that women can be in charge, women can be in power, right? Women can be the protagonists. What about the men, right? Like, what about her boys? She raised them in a household, a progressive household, where clearly she was trying to up the female representation. But what about giving her boys good male representation and not dogging on them? Like, I think this is a problem happening in a lot of progressive households where parents are looking around and saying, well, I did everything right. I didn't raise my boys to be like just the boys. Right. And hey, that's the problem. OK, they resent you for raising them that way. They're looking for people to tell them that it's OK to be a man. And so, for Gavin Newsom, he selected a partner, raised his children this way. I would suggest for every man, think about how your life partner, your woman treats men. That's probably how she's going to raise your sons. And for women, do the same for your man. Like, how does he treat women that are not you? That's probably how he's going to raise your daughters. And I think you should choose wisely.
That's very wise advice. She draws a $150,000 annual salary as a founder of a nonprofit. Maggie, we know a lot of people who work in nonprofits, and it's not unheard of that somebody could make that kind of money, but that is a lot of money for a nonprofit. Then her production company, then she gets another $150,000 a year from the nonprofit for licensing and production films. So she's actually making $300,000. The grift is real, is it not?
She's doing this, I believe, to make documentaries. Her nonprofit is called The Representation Project. Correct me if I'm wrong. And as an aspiring documentary filmmaker, hey, please, Jennifer Newsom, extol the wisdom onto me. How can I make $300,000 producing documentaries? because that sounds like a great gig. Do I need to marry the next governor of California? Perhaps.
Maggie, no.
No.
No,
No, we don't. No.
No, Maggie.
I will encounter the Jennifer Newsom problem of people pulling up all of my past tweets and videos and being like, this represents your husband's words. So, but seriously, like, she knew what she was getting into with Gavin Newsom. I think both of these people just like are very calculated, but they have this very cool California energy to them. So it doesn't read as calculated. Like, you don't get that immediately upon seeing Jennifer Newsom. She's like this tiny, sweet blonde lady, but then she opens her mouth and starts talking and you're like, oh, I know what kind of person you are. This Representation Project also made a film about the American dream and addresses why individualism is part of the problem in our country. So I think, as we're approaching our 250th anniversary in America, we really need to think, do we want someone who thinks that our American values, the foundational values of this country that made it great, are things we need to eliminate in order to achieve this utopian dream of equity? Like, I find her ideas to be not just distasteful, but terrifying.
The thing that drives me so insane, Maggie, is that we have spent years beating the pulpit about government waste and fraud and abuse. And yet the most credible front-running Democratic candidate has a wife who, when he became governor, the state education guidelines begin recommending her films. The Department of Education partners with her office to push her content into schools. Schools pay licensing fees that flow back through the nonprofit and back to her LLC. I pulled these IRS filings. They showed about $1.4 million in licensing revenue from educational institutions. So the grift industrial complex runs straight through the education system that's teaching those values that you're complaining about, rightly complaining about. But the values, we're literally being taxed, forced to pay for the salary of the wife of the governor of California. If you live in California, you're being taxed to pay for those educational films, and those educational films are being used to indoctrinate the kids into this leftist horse shit, if you will, Maggie.
Yes.
It just makes
Frankly,
my blood boil.
Yeah, the price of living in the most beautiful state of our nation is that you have money stolen from your paycheck that goes to fund the indoctrination of your children to line the pockets of the governor's wife.
Mm-hmm.
It's that simple.
Can we talk about this this story that she's been giving her boys dolls since 2016? And her words were to, quote, deconstruct all these gender roles. Another clip shows her saying that when she reads to her son and the protagonist is male, she changes the he to a she in real time. And then there's the part that makes this whole thing so rich. Gavin told Charlie Kirk on his podcast in 2025 that his then 13-year-old son wanted to skip school to come meet Kirk. Another son wanted to call Trump on Gavin's phone. So she's gender swapping picture books and raising kids who want to hang out with Charlie Kirk. What is happening in that house?
It's fairly obvious, isn't it? Like, young boys don't want to grow up in homes where being a boy is demonized. A lot of these liberal parents of her generation thought, we need more female representation in the home. We need to teach boys that it's not boys will be boys. We can raise a new type of man who is a feminist, who thinks that women are better than them, to be quite honest with you, and the structures within which raised. And so, I think she's trying to bring in the government, actually just a failure of her parenting.
Completely agree. I'm speaking to Maggie Moda this morning, live on the Wake Up America show. Maggie, another question. There's this Alabama clip. I don't know if you got to see this video, but she told MSNBC's Jen Psaki that she took her kids on a trip to the southern red states back in 2023, specifically, it's her words, so they could witness racism, misogyny, and bullying firsthand so that they could use their voices to stand up and speak out when they see pain and suffering. Scott Jennings, who is the kind of right-wing guy they have on CNN, he says it's the most condescending thing he'd ever heard in years. They took their kids to Alabama like it's a zoo of racism to show them. What does that tell you about their psychology?
You know, I am from Louisiana, and so this is exceptionally offensive to me. I grew up in a state where, you know, we are probably the most culturally intermixed state in the union, right? And so for her to bring her children to us like we're a zoo and say, look, this is what hatred looks like, I think she is going to cost her husband the entire South. Like, she clearly does not understand what kind of people we are, what kind of open-hearted people in the South are. She's just relying on these media stereotypes. And really, it's giving this same coastal liberal elite that doesn't understand the rest of the country. So, you know, if she and her household hate us, we will not be voting for her husband.
When she was 6 years old, she accidentally killed her sister with a golf cart. If that sounds shocking to you, it's because it is. I was telling Stephanie this story the other day, and she was like, wait, what do you mean she killed her sister with a golf cart? So she was 6 years old. She accidentally ran over her sister with a golf cart and killed her. She wasn't punished because it was an accident. And then she said, and she was talking about the violent prisoners at San Quentin prison, she said their crimes were probably an accident too. What's your read on that?
I think she wasn't punished because it was an accident. I can admit there might be a handful of kids in prison that did something accidentally, but it's to just assume that all of those kids there are exactly like you, that they had no intention of killing, is willfully ignorant about the way the world works. Like, there is evil out there. And the refusal to recognize evil when it's confronting you begets more evil. Like, we've seen this with these of murderous criminals who get released back out onto the streets and then commit crimes again, right? So if we don't think that evil exists, if we don't think that evil needs to be kept away from society, then we're living in anarchy. People like Jennifer Newsom are protected in their, you know, fortified homes from crime. And so of course she can go into these prisons and say, you know, I'm exactly like them. She's not. What happened to Jennifer Newsom is horrible. Like, I read more about the story. Like, her sister was hiding behind her golf cart and the golf cart went into reverse, right? Like, that is a freak accident that nobody could have predicted. And for a young child, like, you probably will blame yourself, like anyone would, but it was an accident. It was not her going and, you know, murdering her parents, right? Or committing some other unspeakable crime. There are kids that are literally walking in schools with guns and mowing down their classmates, right? That is not an accident.
Maggie, one last question for you on this topic. We'd be remiss if we didn't bring it up. And I hope you can kind of help me navigate these treacherous waters of this discussion, because we can't do this without addressing the Harvey Weinstein history, because it is directly relevant to how she built her public identity. So she testified in 2022 as Jane Doe 4 that Weinstein sexually assaulted her back in 2005. But the defense introduced an email that she sent to Weinstein in 2007, 2 years after the alleged assault, asking him for advice on how to handle bad press around Gavin's affair with his campaign manager's wife. Weinstein's own lawyer said in open court, of all the things you'd think a woman who was raped by Harvey Weinstein wouldn't do, it's ask him how to deal with a sex scandal. But then separately, Rose McGowan has said that in 2017, months before the New York Times Weinstein story broke, Siebel Newsom cold called her on behalf of Weinstein's lawyer, David Bowie's, asking what it would take to make her happy. She denied that, as somebody who watches how all this kind of stuff comes together, how do you process all that in the context of her she's going to champion herself, her public identity is going to be a champion for women. How do you interpret this?
Second story is probably more damning than the first, because within Hollywood, every interaction I've had with these people has been weird. Like, the standards are just weird. Like, it's both very liberal and very creepy and predatory. And I don't understand how those circles work. But for her to allegedly call Rose McGowan and try to shut her up is very concerning to me. That seems more like she realized the tide was going in a different direction. And so she quickly changed her position and testified against him. I don't know. I think with the Weinstein scandal, there's a lot of like gray area there, and she was potentially caught up in that gray area. Again, like, for you to position yourself as this big feminist icon and then to have potentially called someone to get them to shut up is like mind-blowing to me. Like, it's very calculated and snaky.
Yeah, it really is, Maggie. You were so excited to talk about this topic. I knew you were going to have the best POV on it. I'm glad we could get you on the show. I think my booker is like saying we need to get like a permanent Maggie Moda slot or something like that, but that's all dependent on you. Maggie, tell us what you're working on these days, and will you share with our audience, give us your plugs, anything that you want to talk about before we let you go.
Well, I mean, I have some secret things in the works, so stay tuned on my Twitter at Maggie Moda for those announcements. I have a bunch of really huge projects coming down the pipeline, so I would just follow me there. Follow me on YouTube at Maggie Moda YT, Maggie Moda IG on Instagram. And I interact with people in there. So leave me a comment. Tell me you came from Austin Petersen's show.
They will. They will now. Now they're going to do that. So guys, head over. It's Maggie Moda over on X. Tell them AP for Liberty sent you. Hey, Maggie, thanks so much for being awesome. We appreciate all you do for Liberty. You have a wonderful day.
Thanks so much for having me, Austin.
Maggie Moda, Y-O-D-A Yoda, on a lot of green soda, da-da-da-da-da. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. I'm your host, Austin Petersen, and this is the end of the road as we know it. It's the end of the show as we know it, and I feel fine. 6 o'clock TV hour. It's the end of the world. All right, guys, it's time to go. Thank you so much for all you've done for us. Thank you for unlocking the bonus content. I hope you have a wonderful day. Today is, God, what is today? Thursday? Oh, you know what that means? Cafecito Libre starring Miley and Salabaria. That means Culturama tonight. The For Liberty Network is just cooking. Thursdays are like our busiest day. So don't forget to watch Mylene Salabaria's Cafecito Libre, decoding Latin America for the United States of America. Head on over to her channel and give her a follow. Rumble.com/Cafecito Libre. What about Culturama? Rumble.com/Culturama. There's so many plugs, guys, that I just don't know what all to tell you. And there's no way you're going to be able to retain all that information. So let's just say exit through the grift shop at forlibertyshop.com and have a wonderful day. We'll see you guys right back here again tomorrow. Love you too, Quest Fanning, you beautiful bastard.
In the mosquito-ridden swamps and pine barrens of South Carolina, on February 26, 1732, a boy was born who would become the British Army's worst nightmare. Francis Marion grew up on a small frontier plantation, skinny, short, and tough as hickory. As a teenager, he ran away to sea, survived a shipwreck, and learned to live on almost nothing. Back on land, he became a farmer, Indian fighter, and militia officer, hardened by years of brutal border skirmishes against the Cherokee. When the Revolution broke out in 1775, Marion joined the South Carolina militia. He fought at Sullivan's Island in 1776, helping beat back a British attack on Charleston. But his real war began after the devastating American defeat at Camden in August 1780. The British and their loyalist allies controlled the South. Cornwallis was marching north. The regular Continental Army in the Carolinas had been shattered. One man refused to quit. Francis Marion gathered a tiny band of 60 ragged volunteers, farmers, hunters, and escaped prisoners. They carried long rifles, tomahawks, and knives. Most had no uniforms, just hunting shirts and leather breeches. Marion led them deep into the swamps along the Pedee and Santee rivers, places where maps ended and alligators ruled. From these hidden camps, he launched a new kind of war. He struck like lightning and vanished like smoke. On the night of August 20th, 1780, Marion and his men raided a loyalist encampment at Nelson's Ferry. They killed or captured nearly every man, then melted back into the swamp before British reinforcements could arrive. A week later, they hit a supply train, burned wagons, and disappeared again. British officers began calling him the Swamp Fox in frustration. Cornwallis ordered Tarleton to hunt him down and finish the business. Tarleton tried. He chased Marion for days through flooded lowlands and tangled cypress groves. One night, Tarleton's dragoons surrounded what they thought was Marion's camp. At dawn, they charged, only to find it empty. Marion had slipped away hours